Imagine losing everything not once, not twice, but 3 times in just a single decade. Imagine watching the flames roar toward your home, knowing that you've rebuilt before and might have to rebuild again. Imagine explaining to your children why their toys, their photos, and their safe space are gone, replaced by ash and smoke. How much can one family endure? How many times can anyone start over before the fire breaks, not just their house, but their spirit? This is the story of families in California and across the American West who have faced wildfires again and again. One family in particular has survived 3 separate blazes in just 10 years. Their story is not just about resilience. It's about the hidden cost of living in fire country, the weight of trauma that never leaves, and the warning that climate-driven disasters can repeat themselves in ways that feel unbearable. Wildfires are not rare events anymore. They are part of life in fire-prone regions, arriving year after year with increasing intensity. For this family, the first fire was devastating. It swept through their neighborhood, forcing them to evacuate with only minutes to spare. They lost everything: their home, their belongings, their memories. Rebuilding was not just expensive, it was emotional labor. They had to piece their lives back together while dealing with the fear that another fire could come. And yet, they pushed forward. But then, just a few years later, it happened again. Another blaze tore through their region, undoing all of their hard work. For many, that second disaster would have been the breaking point. But they chose to stay, determined not to abandon the community they loved. They rebuilt once more, this time with fire-resistant materials, cleared defensible space, and installed sprinklers and alarms. They believed they were stronger, safer, and more prepared. Still, within a decade, a third fire swept across the hills. Despite all the precautions, the flames found them again. This time, they were not only exhausted, they were angry. Angry at the system that seemed to leave them behind. Angry at utility companies whose equipment sparked blazes. Angry at political leaders who delayed climate action. And angry at the sense that no matter what they did, fire would always return. The financial toll alone was crushing. Insurance premiums skyrocketed after the first fire, and after the second, coverage nearly vanished. By the third, their insurer dropped them altogether, forcing them onto the state's FAIR plan, which provided minimal protection at enormous cost. Each rebuild became harder, not only because of rising construction costs, but because of shrinking support. The home that was once their greatest asset became a constant source of debt and uncertainty. The psychological toll is even heavier. Their children now live with constant anxiety, jumping at the sound of sirens, asking each summer if they will have to evacuate again. The family keeps go-bags packed by the door year-round, unable to feel settled in their own house. Sleep is fragile, broken by nightmares of fire. Friends and neighbors have left, moving to other states to escape the cycle. The community itself feels hollowed out, scarred not only by flames, but by migration and loss. This family's experience reveals a haunting truth. Survival is not just about escaping the flames, it's about living with what comes after. Each fire leaves behind scars, physical, financial, emotional, that never fully heal before the next disaster arrives. And in an age of climate change, the risk is constant. What was once a once-in-a-lifetime tragedy has become a recurring nightmare. But their story also raises larger questions. Who is responsible for families being forced to endure this kind of repeated trauma? Is it just nature, or is it a failure of policy, infrastructure, and collective action? Utility companies have sparked some of the deadliest fires, yet accountability often feels inadequate. Government agencies have spent decades suppressing natural fires, creating forests overloaded with fuel. Politicians have delayed climate action, even as scientists warned that hotter, drier conditions would make fires more intense. And homeowners are left holding the burden, paying the price for choices they never made. This isn't just about one family, it's about thousands. Communities across California, Oregon, and other states have seen repeat fires devastate them. Towns like Paradise, Santa Rosa, and Greenville have become symbols of destruction and resilience, only to face new threats year after year. Each time, people ask, should we rebuild or should we leave? For some, staying is an act of defiance. For others, leaving is the only way to protect their families. Both choices come with sacrifice. Rebuilding after one fire is hard. Rebuilding after three feels almost impossible. And yet this family's determination to stay speaks to something deeper. The human need for home, for belonging, for community. Their roots are not just in the soil, but in the memories, friendships, and culture of the place they call home. Walking away feels like losing more than a house. It feels like losing their identity. At the same time, their resilience should not be mistaken for acceptance. They are calling for change. Better infrastructure, stronger prevention policies, fair insurance systems, and real action on climate. They don't want sympathy, they want solutions. They want assurance that future generations won't have to endure the same cycle of destruction and rebuilding. This story is also a warning. If wildfires can devastate the same family 3 times in 10 years, what does that mean for the millions of others living in fire-prone regions? What does it mean for the nation's housing market, its insurance systems, and its ability to adapt to climate-driven disasters? And what happens when more and more people face the same impossible question? Stay and risk losing everything again, or leave and lose the place they call home? It's tempting to frame this family as heroes of resilience, but resilience has its limits. At some point, resilience becomes exhaustion. At some point, starting over for the 3rd or 4th time feels less like courage and more like survival with no real choice. That's where many Californians find themselves today, caught in a cycle that feels endless. Yet, within their story is also a glimpse of hope. Their community, though battered, has banded together. Neighbors help each other clear brush, share resources, and support one another through rebuilding. Volunteers and non-profits step in to provide aid. Scientists and engineers are developing new tools, fire-resistant homes, smarter grids, early warning systems that could one day break the cycle. If these solutions are embraced and scaled, the future doesn't have to mirror the past. But hope alone isn't enough. What's needed is action. Action to hold corporations accountable for negligence. Action to reform insurance so families aren't left defenseless. Action to address the root causes of climate change. And action to rethink how we live with fire, not just fight against it. The story of this family, 3 fires, 10 years, should shake us. It should force us to ask, how many more families will have to endure this before real change happens? How much loss, how much trauma, how many destroyed communities will it take? Their survival is remarkable, but their suffering is unacceptable. As the flames grow hotter and the risks rise, the question is no longer whether we can prevent every fire. The question is whether we can build a society where one family doesn't have to start over 3 times in 10 years, where survival isn't the only option, and where the American dream of home ownership isn't consumed by fire. So as you reflect on their story, ask yourself, what would you do if this were your family? Could you start over again and again, or would you walk away? And what responsibility do we all share in making sure families like this don't face the same nightmare tomorrow? Thank you for watching. If this story gave you a new perspective on what it means to survive in the age of megafires, subscribe to Crisis Lens for more deep investigations into how disasters are reshaping society. Don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and join the conversation in the comments. What would you do if your family faced 3 wildfires in just 10 years?